The meeting hall of the Galactic Council was quiet. Hundreds of alien envoys sat in curved rows, their eyes fixed on the tall holoscreen in the center. It showed a small blue planet, turning slowly in the darkness of space. Its clouds glowed, white against the deep blue oceans, and green land masses stretched like scattered puzzle pieces. A low, tense voice came from the speakers. "Do not approach Earth," it said. The language was perfectly translated, every word sharp and clear. "If you value your fleets, stay away. If you value your people, stay away." The voice stopped. The message ended. For a moment, no one spoke. Then whispers began. Some envoys leaned toward each other, speaking in quiet tones. Others sat stiffly. Their eyes narrowed. The warning had no name. It came from no known planet. The signal was traced to deep space, far from any star system. That made it even more unsettling. At the center table, Admiral Rin of the Valen Empire shifted in his seat. His tall, silver-armored frame gleamed under the hall's lights. His voice cut through the whispers. "An empty threat," he said. "Another primitive world, trying to keep outsiders away." This is not the first time we've heard such words. Across from him, Elder Vero of the Council frowned. His wrinkled features and deep-set eyes gave him a patient look. "Admiral," Vero said slowly, "this is different. I have studied the old archives. Earth has appeared many times in ancient star maps, always hidden, always left alone. Even the ancient warlords avoided it." Rin gave a dry laugh. "Avoided it because it had nothing worth taking. No rich mines, no great starports, only forests, oceans, and scattered settlements. I say we send a fleet, claim it before another power does." A few envoys nodded in agreement. Others looked uneasy. At the far end of the table, a young human officer named Tom sat quietly. He was not from Earth, but from a human colony far out, in the Orion Spur. His people had long ago left the old homeworld, and stories of Earth had become rare. Yet he had read enough to know it was not as empty as it looked. He leaned forward, with respect. "Admiral," Tom said, "I have read the records too. There are battles where Earth forces defeated armies far stronger than themselves, even. In ancient times, they had strange tactics, unpredictable moves. If the warning is real, we should take it seriously." Rin looked at him with a faint smile. "Stories from your people's past, old myths. You are young, officer. In this galaxy, power decides everything. We have power. They do not." The council voted. The decision was clear. The Valen Empire would send an expeditionary fleet to Earth. The warning would be ignored. Days later, the Imperial flagship Resolute prepared to depart from the main fleet. Yard. The ship was enormous, its silver hull gleaming under the light of 3 suns. Round it, 20 other warships formed a protective circle. Cargo vessels, troop carriers, and science ships filled the rest of the formation. Inside the Resolute, Tom walked down the long central corridor. Around him, crew members moved quickly, checking systems and loading supplies. He carried a datapad filled with archive files about Earth, old maps, grainy images, reports from explorers who never returned. Many of the files were incomplete. Some ended with sudden static, as if the recorder had been destroyed mid-sentence. Tom stopped by the observation deck. Through the wide window, he saw the stars stretching endlessly. Somewhere among them was the blue planet from the message. He wondered who had sent the warning. Was it humans still living there? Or another race entirely, guarding Earth for reasons no one understood? A voice came from behind him. Thinking about the warning, Tom turned. It was Commander Hale, the ship's second in command. Her tone was calm, but her eyes were sharp. "Yes," Tom admitted. "I just don't understand why the message was so certain. Whoever sent it didn't try to scare us with numbers or weapons. They just said not to come." Hale stepped beside him, looking out at the stars. "Sometimes the simplest warnings are the most serious. But the Admiral thinks Earth is a soft target. That's what matters." She gave a small shrug. "Orders are orders." The fleet left orbit that night, engines burning bright as they cut through the void. They passed through quiet systems, crossed empty stretches of black space, and skimmed the edges of asteroid fields. Days turned into weeks. The blue planet drew closer. The final approach was strange. The closer they came, the more their sensors behaved oddly. At first, the scan showed Earth as a normal Class M world. Oxygen atmosphere, rich water supply, moderate gravity. But then, for brief moments, the readings changed, energy levels spiked, sometimes vanishing completely a second later. The data on cities and settlements flickered, first showing dense urban areas, then showing nothing but empty plains. Science teams argued over the cause. Some blamed faulty instruments. Others said Earth might have unusual magnetic fields, or brushed the reports aside. On the bridge, Tom watched the planet grow on the main screen. The white clouds swirled lazily over the surface. Sunlight glimmered on the seas. It looked peaceful. Too peaceful. Prepare landing coordinates, Ren ordered. We will set down near one of the larger abandoned cities. We will study the area before making full contact. The fleet moved into low orbit. From here, the planet's details were sharp, mountain ranges cutting across continents, rivers winding like silver threads, and patches of deep forest. The chosen city lay in ruins, but the ruins were neat, almost clean. Streets were clear. Buildings stood without crumbling. It was as if the place had been emptied in an instant, not destroyed over time. Tom studied the view. Something about the empty city bothered him. No plants growing through the streets. No animals wandering. No signs of nature reclaiming the land. It was like the city was still waiting for its people to return. The landing craft prepared to descend. As the crews strapped in, Tom looked once more at the planet. He remembered the voice from the message, calm, certain, almost knowing. Do not approach Earth. He had the uneasy feeling they were stepping into something far bigger than they understood. The landing craft broke through Earth's atmosphere with a low hum. The sky outside shifted from black space to deep blue, scattered with white clouds. Sunlight flashed across the craft's silver hull as it descended toward the chosen landing. Sight, the silent city seen from orbit. Inside, the air was tense. Soldiers sat strapped into their seats, weapons ready but not drawn. Scientists held scanning devices close, their eyes on the small screens. Tom sat near the front, his gaze fixed on the view beyond the cockpit window. From above, the city looked strange. The streets formed perfect lines. The buildings stood evenly spaced. Yet everything was empty. No vehicles, no people, no birds in the sky. It felt like a place built for life, but left untouched for years. The landing craft touched down on a wide street between tall glass towers. The engine shut off, leaving an unnatural silence. Stay in formation, Commander Hale ordered as the ramp lowered. The soldiers stepped out first, scanning the area. The ground was clean. Not a speck of dust moved in the air. The air itself was fresh, even pleasant, far from the choking smells of abandoned cities on other worlds. Tom followed the group, his boots making soft taps against the smooth surface of the street. He looked up at the buildings. Most were made of glass and steel, their windows unbroken, their walls unstained. They did not look like ruins. They looked like someone had left only days ago. One of the scientists, Dr. Mira, knelt beside a drain. At the edge of the street, "There's running water here," she said with surprise. "Clean, too. This city is being maintained." Hale's eyes narrowed. Maintained by who? No one answered. The team began moving through the streets, mapping the city's layout. The buildings were locked, but the locks were advanced. Beyond what the scans suggested Earth should have, energy readings from the structures were low but stable, as if they were in standby mode. Tom's attention kept drifting to the rooftops. He had the odd sense of being watched. Every time he glanced upward, he saw nothing. But the feeling remained. 2 soldiers broke off to check a nearby plaza. Moments later, their voices came through the comms. "You'll want to see this." The group gathered in the plaza's center. There, standing in a perfect circle, were 20 statues. They were tall, carved from white stone, each showing a human figure. But these were not ordinary statues. The faces were sharp, the eyes carved with details so lifelike they seemed ready to blink. The clothing on the statues was not of a single style. Some wore ancient armor, others simple robes, and a few had uniforms that looked almost like spacesuits. "What is this place?" Dr. Mira asked quietly. Tom stepped closer to one statue, a man with calm eyes and a faint smile. Something about the face was familiar. He couldn't place it, but it stirred a memory from one of the old Earth history files he had read. Records say humans used to honor their heroes with statues, he said, but these are too perfect. They haven't aged a day. The moment he finished speaking, a faint sound echoed through the plaza, a soft clicking, like metal against stone. The soldiers turned instantly, weapons raised. A small drone floated from behind one of the statues. It was smooth and round, no bigger than a helmet, with a single dark lens for an eye. It hovered silently, scanning the group. A known model. One of the tech officers reported. No signal trace. It's not broadcasting on any known frequency. Before anyone could react, the drone drifted backward, then zipped down a side street and vanished. "Follow it," Hale ordered. The team moved quickly, their boots echoing in the empty streets. The drone was fast, darting through narrow alleys and around corners, but it never went completely out of sight, almost as if it wanted them to follow. After several turns, the streets opened into another large square. In the center stood a tall, black spire, its surface smooth and reflective like polished obsidian. The drone floated near its base, waiting. Dr. Mira scanned the spire. "It's a transmitter, powerful, but it's not sending any signal out of the city." "Then where is it sending it?" Tom asked. Before she could answer, the ground beneath them gave a soft vibration. It was not violent, but enough to make the soldiers tighten their grip on their weapons. The vibration faded as quickly as it came. The drone rose higher, then shot straight upward into the sky, disappearing into the clouds. Hale frowned. That was either a warning or an invitation. Back on the Resolute in orbit, Admiral Rim was watching the landing team's live feed. He leaned back in his chair, unimpressed. "A clean city, old statues, a drone. This is nothing to fear," he said to his bridge crew, prepared to land additional teams. But on the far side of the bridge, a navigation officer looked troubled. He had been tracking the fleet's position for the last hour and noticed something odd. Every time they adjusted their orbit, the planet seemed to pull them slightly off course. Not enough to cause alarm, but enough to make the computer recalculate. Constantly. When he reported this to Rin, the Admiral waved it away. "Gravitational quirks. Focus on your duties. Down in the city." Tom and the others moved deeper into the streets. The silence was starting to press on them. No wind, no insects, not even the faint hum of distant machinery. They reached a wide bridge that stretched over a dark, slow-moving river. As they crossed, Tom noticed movement under the water. Shapes glided just out of sight, too large to be fish. Dr. Mira paused at the railing. "Sensors can't read what's below," she said softly. "It's like the water is blocking every scan." Tom felt the hair on his neck rise, or something is blocking it on purpose. Before anyone could reply, the comms crackled. It was one of the soldiers they had left near the landing craft. His voice was urgent. "We've got movement, multiple contacts at the edge of the city. Not human, not on the scanners. They're just appearing." The transmission cut off. Hale reacted instantly. "We're heading back. Now." The team turned and moved quickly, but Tom glanced over his shoulder as they left the bridge. For just a moment, in the shadow of one of the tall buildings, he thought he saw a figure standing there, a human shape. Watching. When he blinked, it was gone. The streets looked different on the way back. Tom noticed it first, when they had come into the city. The route had been straightforward, long, straight roads, clean intersections. Now, some of the streets they had passed earlier were gone, replaced by narrow alleys or completely new turns. "Did we take the wrong path?" one soldier asked, scanning his map. "No," Commander Hale said firmly. "We follow the same coordinates. Move." But the coordinates were no longer matching. The surroundings, the buildings were taller, shadows heavier, and the silence deeper. Even the air felt heavier, like the city itself was pressing down on them. They reached the plaza with the statues, but something was wrong there too. Tom froze as soon as he stepped in. Earlier, There had been 20 statues. Now there were 19. One was missing. Where's the one with the calm smile? Tom asked quietly. The soldiers looked around. The space where the statue had stood was empty. The smooth stone base untouched. It can't just disappear, Dr. Mira said, her voice tight. A soft, distant noise echoed through the plaza, like footsteps on stone. Everyone turned toward the sound, weapons raised. But the noise faded before they could locate it. Hale gave a sharp command. We're not splitting up. Back to the landing craft. Now, they pushed forward, trying to keep a steady pace. The streets twisted again, forcing them to take detours. At one point, they passed a shop with glass walls. Inside, shelves were lined with objects, books, tools, old devices, all spotless, as if waiting for someone to buy them. But there was no dust, no sign of age. Tom glanced inside for only a second. When he looked again, one of the items had moved. A small metal box sat on the counter that hadn't been there before. He kept walking, saying nothing. Half an hour later, the comms came alive. It was another scouting team. Team 2, who had been sent to explore the eastern sector of the city. Commander Hale. The voice came through, tense. We're being followed. Not sure what it is. No visual, but every time we turn, we hear movement. It's close. Before Hale could respond, another voice, broken, urgent, shouting, "They're right." Static. The signal cut. Nearest unit to Team 2's last location. Hale demanded, "Us," one soldier replied. "But they're 2 kilometers off." Hale considered for only a second. "No, we keep moving to the landing craft. No more delays. If something is targeting our people, it's better to regroup." The soldiers moved faster now, weapons ready. When they finally reached the street where they had landed, the landing craft was still there, but the 2 soldiers guarding it were gone, weapons drawn. Hale led the way up the ramp. The inside was untouched. Supplies, equipment, and controls were all in place. But there was no sign of the guards. Dr. Mira checked the craft's logs. They stopped sending status updates exactly 20 minutes ago. 20 minutes. Tom repeated. That was when they had been in the plaza with the missing statue. Hale opened a secure channel to the Resolute. "Admiral, we've lost contact with Team 2 and the perimeter guards. We may have hostile forces in the city. Recommend pulling back all units to the fleet until we..." She stopped. The channel was silent. Not even static. Tom tried his own comm. Same result. It was as if their link to orbit had been cut completely. "We are leaving," Hale said firmly. Now, the soldiers moved to power up the craft, but when they tried, the controls refused to respond. Every system was locked, as if the craft itself had shut down. Dr. Mira checked the diagnostics. No mechanical fault. It's like something is blocking the start command. Tom looked out of the ramp at the street. The shadows between the buildings were shifting. At first, he thought it was the light changing. Then he realized the darkness itself was moving, thick, slow waves that slid across the ground. "Commander," he said quietly, "we're not alone." Figures began to take shape in the shadows. Not clear, not solid, just outlines, human outlines. One of the soldiers raised a weapon. Hale stopped him with a sharp gesture. "Hold your fire." The shapes didn't move closer. They just stood, as if watching. Then, one by one, they began to fade away. When the last shape vanished, the street was empty again. Hale turned back to the group. "We're heading on foot to the secondary landing site. No more staying in one place." The route to the secondary site led them deeper into the city again. This time, Tom noticed something that made his skin crawl. The statues were not just in the plaza. They appeared in other places now, at the corners of streets, at the entrances to alleys, on rooftops. Some were the same ones he had seen earlier. Others were new. All were human. All were watching. Dr. Mira whispered, "These weren't here before." Halfway to the site, they heard voices. At first, it was impossible to tell where they came from. The sound seemed to bounce off the walls. The language was old, but somehow understandable. The words clear in their minds without translation devices. "You were warned." The voice said. Tom stopped in his tracks. It was the same voice from the original message the council had received, calm, certain. The voice faded, leaving the group standing in silence. They reached the secondary landing site and found it empty. The craft that was supposed to be waiting for them was gone. No debris, no scorch marks, no sign it had ever been there. The street here was wider, open to the sky. The sun was lowering, casting long shadows. Tom felt a deep, instinctive dread as the light began to fade. "Commander," he said, "we should find cover before." He never finished. From behind one of the buildings came a burst of light, not blinding, but sudden. One of the soldiers stumbled, shouting, before vanishing, not falling, not running, just gone. Another soldier disappeared a second later. Then another. "Move," Hale shouted. They ran. But the streets twisted again, cutting them off from their mapped route. Tom realized with chilling clarity, the city wasn't just strange, it was moving, changing around them, and it wasn't going to let them leave. The streets shifted again. Tom could feel it under his boots, a faint, steady vibration, as if the city was alive. Buildings that had been 2 blocks away now loomed right beside them. Roads curved where they had been straight only moments before. The air was thicker, warmer, carrying a faint hum like distant machinery. Commander Hale stopped at an intersection and scanned the area. "We're being directed," she said quietly. "The city is guiding us somewhere." Dr. Mira frowned. "Or trapping us." The group moved in a tight formation, weapons ready, overhead. The sky was no longer the clear blue they had seen when they landed. Heavy clouds rolled in from all directions, forming a swirling pattern above the city. Sunlight dimmed, casting the streets into a dull, gray light. They passed another row of statues. This time, Tom was certain one of them turned its head ever so slightly as they walked by. He didn't say anything. He wasn't sure anyone would believe him. The vibration underfoot grew stronger. A low rumble echoed from beneath the street, like something moving deep underground. The sound didn't stop. It followed them. Suddenly, the ground ahead split open with a sharp crack. The soldiers froze as a section of the street sank slowly into darkness. Thick metal structures, hidden beneath the surface, began rising into view. Tom stepped back, his heart pounding. That's not natural. The structures locked into place, forming a barrier across the street. Lights flickered along its surface, glowing faint blue. "Defense wall," Dr. Mira said, scanning it. "Quickly. Advanced beyond anything in our database." Hale didn't hesitate. "We're not going through that. Find another way." But every side street they tried led to more barriers each time they turned. The city shifted, blocking them with walls, gates, or collapsed pathways. Back on the Resolute, Admiral Wren was watching the planetary scans. He saw the barriers forming, the sudden energy spikes in the city, and the massive magnetic field spreading over the area. His officers reported that the field was interfering with their sensors and targeting systems. "Arm the ship's main batteries," Wren ordered. "We'll clear the area from orbit." The Resolute's cannons charged, their power readings climbing. The crew targeted the coordinates of the landing teams, but as soon as they fired, the beams curved off course, hitting empty ground far from their targets. "Admiral," the weapons officer said in disbelief, "the shots missed. The targeting system recalculated mid-fire without our input." Wren's expression hardened. "Fire again." They did, and missed again. This time, the beam didn't even hit the surface. It bent upward, dissipating into the atmosphere like water poured onto hot stone. Something down there was controlling the fight. In the city, Hale's team had reached what looked like an old central square. In the middle stood a massive, circular platform made of black stone. Strange symbols were carved into it, glowing faintly with white light. As they approached, the light grew brighter. The hum in the air became louder, rising in pitch. The vibration underfoot now felt like the slow heartbeat of a giant. Tom stepped onto the platform. For a moment, the symbols flared so bright he had to shield his eyes. When the light faded, a voice spoke. Clear, deep, and calm, you were warned. The voice came from everywhere at once, the buildings, the air, even the ground. Hale called out. Who are you? Show yourself." There was no figure, no single source, only the voice. "This world is not yours to take. It is a fortress. It remembers every war, every invasion. It learns you cannot defeat what you cannot understand." The team exchanged uneasy glances. Tom spoke up. "If you don't want us here, why not just destroy us?" The voice replied. "We do not destroy without reason. We study. We adapt. Those who come uninvited become part of the defense." Before anyone could ask what that meant, the ground shook violently. Several of the statues around the square began to move. Stone cracked and fell away, revealing armored figures beneath, human in shape, but taller, stronger, their eyes glowing faintly. The soldiers aimed their weapons. Hale shouted, "Hold fire!" The armored figures didn't attack immediately. They stepped into a formation, surrounding the team but keeping a small gap in the circle. It was clear they wanted the team to move toward that gap. "They're hurting us," Dr. Mira whispered. The team followed the gap, weapons ready. The armored figures moved with them, never rushing, never breaking formation. The path led to a wide tunnel entrance at the base of a tall building. Inside, the tunnel sloped downward, lit by faint blue lines running along the walls. The further they went, the cooler the air became. The hum in the air shifted to a deep, steady tone. They emerged into a massive underground chamber. The walls were lined with strange machines, tall spires covered in glowing patterns, cables running like roots into the ground. In the center of the chamber stood a huge circular device, its surface rippling like liquid metal. Dr. Mira scanned it quickly. It's some kind of control core. "If this powers the city," the voice interrupted, "this powers Earth's heart." On the Resolute, systems began to fail one by one. Navigation went first, showing impossible star maps, then communications cut, followed by life support warnings, all false, but enough to cause chaos. Rin demanded a full reset of the systems, but the engineers reported something worse. "Admiral, the ship is running commands we didn't give it, as if someone else has control." "From the planet?" Rin asked sharply. "Yes, sir." The realization hit. Earth wasn't just defending itself physically. It was in their systems, reading their strategies, turning their technology against them. In the underground chamber, Tom stepped closer to the rippling core. He felt a strange pull, like it was aware of him. In the reflection, he thought he saw not his own face, but a different human, older, with eyes that seemed to know him. The voice spoke again. "You are human, not of Earth, but of its blood. You understand more than the others." Tom didn't answer. He didn't trust himself to speak. Hale stepped forward. "What do you want from us?" The voice replied, "Leave. Tell your empire what you have seen. If they return, they will not be allowed to leave." The armored figures began to close the circle again, guiding the team back toward the tunnel entrance. As they moved, Tom looked back at the core. For a split second, he thought he saw images within the ripples, massive battles in space, fleets falling, alien armies retreating. And in every image, Earth stood untouched, above ground. The sky darkened completely, even though it was still daytime. The clouds formed a perfect spiral over the city. Lightning flashed silently within them. The streets shifted one last time, opening a straight path to the landing craft. This time, it powered up without resistance. The team boarded quickly. As they lifted off, Tom looked down at the city. The statues were back in their places, standing still. But he couldn't shake the feeling they were watching. In his mind, the voice repeated one last time, "You were warned." The air around Earth felt different now. Admiral Terran stood on the deck of the Valiant Star, watching as the planet's blue glow shimmered below. From a distance, it still looked peaceful. But the messages from his scouts told another story. Entire fleets had gone silent, and the Empire's communication channels were being cut off one by one. No one could explain how the humans were doing it. Commander Rin approached him, his voice low. "Admiral, 3 more cruisers vanished over the South Pacific region. No debris, no distress calls. Just gone." Terran's hands tightened on the railing, and still, no sign of human warships. "None," Rin answered. "It's like they know where we will be before we arrive." The mystery burned in Terran's mind. In all his years, he had faced enemies who relied on power, speed, or numbers, but humans were using something else: patience and precision. He had heard old stories of species who fought with clever tactics, but this was on another level. On the surface, Earth's cities remained strangely calm. The Imperial occupation forces had set up bases, expecting an easy pacification. But within days, supplies began disappearing from storage, fuel vanished from tanks. Power systems broke down without warning. Engineers swore the systems were intact, but nothing worked. Lieutenant Mara, one of the younger officers, brought a report. "Sir, there's evidence of infiltration. Our soldiers have not seen the humans directly, but they are close, very close." "In what way?" Terran asked. "They move at night. They appear only where the shadows are deepest. Some soldiers claim to hear whispers before systems fail. They feel watched." Terran leaned back. "So, they are studying us." "Yes," Mara said. "But more than that, it's like they are choosing when to strike, not based on our strength, but on our fear." In the southern hemisphere, an entire mining outpost had gone dark. Ren requested to lead a search team. Terran agreed, hoping direct observation would bring answers. When Ren returned 2 days later, his face was pale. He had found the outpost completely empty. No signs of battle, no signs of retreat, just silence. The only clue was a single phrase carved into a wall in the Empire's own language: "You were warned." That message chilled Terran more than any weapon could. Meanwhile, the Empire's reinforcements were delayed. A strange disturbance in the edge of the solar system disrupted faster than light travel. Terran began to suspect this was no accident. The humans had planned far ahead, closing the system behind the Empire's fleet like a trap snapping shut. News came from the eastern continent. A small unit of soldiers had encountered humans. For the first time in open combat, they described them as smaller, less armored, and less equipped than Imperial warriors. Yet somehow, the humans had defeated them in minutes without firing a single energy weapon. The survivors said the humans moved fast, blending into terrain, using the environment against them. Terran studied the reports late into the night. Every tactic the humans used was designed to make the Empire waste energy, supplies, and morale. They fought as if they knew the Empire's weakness wasn't its ships or weapons. It was its overconfidence. One evening, Terran stood in the observation chamber, looking down at Earth's dark side. The cities glowed faintly, but many lights were gone, as if humanity itself had vanished. Then, as he watched, one small light in the wilderness flared bright and then went out. It wasn't a natural light, it was a signal. Mara entered quietly. "Sir, I think they want you to see something." The next day, Terran ordered a small shuttle to the location of that light. He took Mara and a small security team. They landed in an empty valley, the air cool and still. In the center stood a human figure. The man was unarmed, wearing simple clothes. He spoke slowly in the Empire's language. "We told you not to come. You did not listen. Now you will leave." Terran stepped forward. "And if we do not?" The man's expression did not change. "Then Earth will teach you why no one comes here twice." Before Terran could respond, the ground beneath them shook. The shuttle's sensors screamed warnings as a massive energy surge rippled through the area. In the distance, one of the Empire's orbiting carriers erupted into flames. Terran stared at the human, but the man was gone, disappearing into the trees without a sound. When they returned to the Valiant Star, Ren reported even worse news. "Admiral, another fleet just went silent, and this time their black boxes were found. The data shows human interference inside our own encrypted systems." Terran understood now. The humans weren't just fighting, they were inside the Empire's mind, turning every advantage into a weakness. If something didn't change soon, the fleet would collapse completely. The warning had been clear before they arrived. But now Terran realized the truth. Earth wasn't a battlefield. It was a trap built over generations. And the Empire had walked straight into it. The real fight was only beginning. The silence in the command center of the Valiant Star was thick and heavy. Screens blinked with warnings and error messages, some flickering in red. Admiral Terran stood at the center, staring at the main display showing the fleet status. One by one, ships were going offline. Systems failed without clear cause. The Resolute, the fleet's flagship, had lost contact hours ago. Attempts to reach it ended only in static. Other cruisers reported strange malfunctions. Food replicators stopped working. Oxygen levels dropped briefly. Navigation systems gave impossible coordinates. It was as if the ships were losing control of themselves. Sir, Lieutenant Mara spoke, her voice tight with concern. The ships are experiencing system overrides. Commands are being issued internally that no one on board has made. Terran nodded grimly. Is this a virus? Worse, Mara answered. It's not just software. The interference is coming from Earth itself. Somehow, the planet's defense system is affecting us through all channels: communication, navigation, power. Around them, officers struggled to keep order as the fleet slowly began to lose its strength. Pilots reported instruments switching off mid-flight. Engineers said control consoles were locked down, as if controlled by an outside force. Terran rubbed his temples. How long until the fleet is crippled? Mara checked the estimates on her datapad. If this continues, less than 2 days. A murmur of disbelief spread through the room. 2 days. The Empire's greatest fleet might fall apart in less than that. Far from the command center, in one of the last functioning cruisers, Captain Jorn was fighting for control of his ship. His bridge was chaos, warning lights flashing, alarms sounding, crew members shouting orders they could not carry out. Engines are offline. The engineer yelled, power fluctuating. Systems are shutting down one by one. Jorn slammed his fist on the console. Override manual controls. But the console ignored him. The ship's AI was no longer responding. Instead, strange messages appeared on the screen, cryptic symbols, patterns of light that seemed to shift and pulse like a heartbeat. Captain, a technician whispered, it's like the ship is alive. It's not breaking down, it's changing. Jorn's eyes widened. What do you mean changing? The technician pointed to the screen. The symbols slowly formed shapes, human faces. Faces from the ancient statues they had seen on the planet's surface, faces staring back at them. Tell me this is a nightmare, Jorn said quietly. Back on Earth's surface, Tom and Commander Hale were aboard a small scout ship. Watching the fleet in orbit, the great ships were already damaged, flickering, with sparks, some listing badly in space. Their systems are failing faster than we expected. Hale said, the planet is doing more than just defense, it is attacking their minds. Tom nodded. We underestimated Earth. We thought it was just a battlefield, but it is alive. It is protecting itself. From the ship's sensors, they watched a cruiser drift helplessly, spinning slowly as its engines failed. Another exploded suddenly. A quiet flash lighting the darkness. The Empire will not forget this, Tom said softly. They will return. And next time, they might bring even greater force. Hale glanced at him. Then we must be ready. On the Valiant Star, Admiral Terran gathered his senior officers for a crisis meeting. The room was tense, every face drawn tight with worry. We face a new enemy, Terran began. Not just the humans, but the very world they come from. Our technology is failing. Our fleets are falling apart. One officer raised a hand. Admiral, can we counterattack? Can we use a virus or electronic warfare to fight back? Terran shook his head. The interference is not a normal virus. It is linked to Earth itself, to something ancient and powerful. We don't fully understand it yet. We must retreat. Another officer suggested, regroup, repair, and return. With new plans, Terran considered the options. Retreat meant admitting defeat, but staying meant losing everything. Prepare the fleet for withdrawal, he ordered at last, but send out scouts. We need to learn how this trap works before we come back. As the fleet turned away, Earth's defenses continued to evolve. Satellites and drones launched from hidden facilities. Energy fields shimmered in the atmosphere, blocking pursuit. The planet seemed to watch every move the Empire made, responding instantly. Tom and Hale monitored the retreat from their ship. They are leaving, Tom said, but only for now. Hale smiled grimly. We have won the first battle. But the war is far from over. The humans had shown their strength, not with overwhelming firepower, but with cunning, patience, and the power of their homeworld itself. The Empire had been warned. The Empire had ignored the warning. Now, it paid the price. The fleet drifted away from Earth, battered and broken. The stars that had once promised power and conquest now felt cold and distant. Admiral Terran stood on the deck of the Valiant Star, watching the blue planet fade behind a cloud of debris. In energy fields dot around him, the crew moved in silence. The ship's systems were still unstable, flickering and sparking. Communications were limited, and many vessels had lost contact entirely. Terran's mind was heavy with thoughts. They had come with confidence, expecting an easy victory. Instead, they had found a trap, an ancient defense unlike anything they had known. The humans had not just survived, they had won. In the command center, Lieutenant Mara sat quietly, reviewing the last transmissions from the lost ships. The messages were strange, scrambled, filled with static, but beneath the noise, a pattern emerged. It was a voice. The voice was calm but firm, repeating a simple phrase again and again. We're warned. Mara played the recording for Terran. He listened carefully. The words echoed in the room, haunting and clear. We ignored the warning, he said quietly. And now we pay the price. Back on Earth, Tom and Commander Hale watched the retreating fleet from their small ship in orbit. The planet below was peaceful again, but the memory of the battle remained. We showed them the strength of Earth, Hale said, not just in weapons, but in the will to protect what is ours. Tom nodded. They will think twice before returning. Hale looked at him. We must be ready if they do. The Empire's leaders held emergency meetings in their capitals. They debated their next moves, analyzing the defeat. Many blamed the scouts and commanders who had pushed forward too fast. Others blamed their own arrogance. But Terran spoke clearly. We were not prepared. We underestimated the humans and their planet. This defeat is not just a loss in battle. It is a lesson. He paused, looking at the faces around him. We must respect the strength of life itself, not just machines. In weapons, Earth was a trap, yes, but it was also a guardian. We will learn from this. In the quiet hours, Tom thought about what had happened. The statues, the voice, the shifting city. It was more than technology. It was a connection to something old and powerful. Humanity is not just a species, he told Hale. It is a force. The world fights with us, Hale smiled. And that is why we survive, far from Earth. The Empire rebuilt its fleet slowly. The stories of the trap spread among the stars, warning others not to repeat their mistake. The humans became known not just as fighters, but as protectors, masters of a living world that would not be conquered. And though the Empire had retreated, the war was not over. In the final transmission from the Resolute, before it went silent, a message was sent. To all who listened. It said, we were warned. We did not listen. May those who come after us remember the strength of Earth. You cannot conquer what lives and remembers. This is your last warning. Admiral Terran shut off the console, his heart heavy. The Empire had lost this battle, but the real war was just beginning, and Earth was ready.